On July 20th, 1969, the world stopped. For the first time in history, a human being stepped on another celestial body. The Earth watched in disbelief on TV. That's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind. Neil Armstrong's voice echoed across the screen, straight from the void of the moon. But what if all this was just a show? A carefully staged spectacle, a trick staged at the height of the Cold War. Some say that the United States never went to the moon, that everything was filmed in a studio, that the waving flag, the strange shadows, and the absolute silence are proof of a monumental hoax, and you know what's even crazier? Millions of people still believe this to this day. But why? What fuels this doubt more than 50 years later? And if the right question is not, did we go to the moon or not? But rather, why do so many people think we didn't go? In this video, we'll explore the behind the scenes of the lunar conspiracy, the arguments, the evidence, and the war behind the scenes. In the end, you decide what you believe. But be warned, the truth, whatever it may be, is buried 384,000 kilometers from Earth.
A little more. About another inch. There, you got it? That's a good step. Yep. About a 3-footer. Beautiful view.
Lunar conspiracy theory proponents have a list, and it starts with the flag. The American flag, planted on the surface of the moon, is waving. What do you mean? There is no wind on the moon. NASA's explanation? A horizontal pole at the top of the flag. And the movement was caused by the astronauts themselves, but skeptics don't buy it. Another point, the shadows. There is a photo where the shadows go in different directions. According to them, this only happens with multiple lights, like studio lights. What about the stars? In none of the photos do stars appear in the sky. They say, if they were in space, where were the stars? The official answer is technical. The camera was set to capture the brightness of the lunar surface, not the stars. But again, theorists are not convinced, and there's more. They say the scenario is always the same, even when they change missions, that there are strange reflections on the astronauts' helmets, that the quality of the images is too good for 1969, and, of course, the final argument. If we went to the moon, why didn't we ever come back with humans? These are questions that continue to drag on. Some have a clear scientific answer. Others are just noise.
0, all engine running. We have a liftoff. Liftoff on Apollo 11.
Shadow. 4 forward, drift into the right a little. 30 seconds. Forward drift. Contact light. Okay, engine stop. Tranquility Base here. The Eagle has landed.
Roger, Tranquility. We copy you on the ground. You got a bunch of guys about to turn blue.
We're going to be busy for a minute.
Armstrong is on the moon. Neil Armstrong, 38-year-old American, standing on the surface of the moon. On this July 20th, 1969.
That's one small step for man. One giant leap for mankind. Oh, that looks beautiful from here, Neil. It has a stark beauty all its own. It's like much of the high desert of the United States. It's different, but it's very pretty out here. Beautiful view. Isn't that something? Magnificent sight out here. Magnificent desolation.
60s, the United States and the Soviet Union were at the height of the Cold War. It wasn't just a political dispute. It was a battle of image. Whoever controlled space would control the future. The USSR came out ahead. First satellite, first man in space, first woman. What about the Americans? Pressured, humiliated. It was necessary to turn the game around. Quickly. In 1961, Kennedy made a bold promise. We will put a man on the moon before the decade is out. A bold bet, dearest, but it had a gigantic symbolic value. Show the world that the American dream conquered even the impossible. Now think with me. And if, upon realizing that they wouldn't be able to do it in time, did someone decide to stage the landing? That's where Stanley Kubrick comes in. Meticulous director, obsessed with realism. In 1968, he released 2001, A Space Odyssey, a film that depicted spaceships, zero gravity, and lunar surfaces with frightening perfection. Conspiracy theorists claim he was the one who directed the false landing, recorded in NASA's own studio, using the same light and scenery tricks as in the movies. The fact is, with or without conspiracy, the historical context was perfect for a staging. Everything needed to work, even if it was just for the camera.
I'm going to step off the limb now. That's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
There are many theories about what happened on the moon, but some don't look up. They look inward. It's not about what was filmed or what was photographed. The real question is, what was remembered? Some researchers bring up a disturbing hypothesis that the Apollo astronauts went through psychological containment procedures after the mission. Officially, it was weeks of quarantine to avoid contamination. But reports from the time indicate that no external visits were allowed, not even from family members. In certain circles, this raised suspicion. The term used by some theorists is blunt: controlled memory wipe. The theory draws possible links to a real project known as MK-Ultra from the CIA, which experimented with mind control in the 1960s. And it suggests that, after returning from the moon, the astronauts may have been subjected to experimental versions of these techniques. In later interviews, curious behaviors fed into this theory. Neil Armstrong consistently avoided public appearances. In speeches, he used cryptic phrases like, "There are great truths still to be revealed, if you can remove the protective layers." Buzz Aldrin in different moments gave conflicting versions of the same events. For some, it's just signs of aging. For others, it's proof that the memories were never fully returned. It's also noted that none of the crew ever wrote a detailed mission diary. Nothing rich in description, nothing personal. Some view that as a suspicious gap, especially when it was the most historic mission in human history. Another pointed coincidence. In NASA documents declassified over the years, there are gaps, redactions, missing pages, especially in the post-mission psychological reports. More radical theorists suggest those pages were removed to hide something bigger: what the astronauts actually saw and forgot. According to these theories, the crew witnessed something incompatible with what the public could know. And the solution wasn't to cover it up. It was to erase it. To this day, no one really knows what happened during that quarantine, or what was said in the private sessions with NASA specialists. But one question hangs in the air. If you saw something you weren't supposed to, would you remember it, or would you be made to forget? For decades, the narrative was clear. Apollo 11 took mankind to the surface of the moon. But what if that's not the whole story? In more secretive corners of the conspiracy world, there's a far more controversial idea. The mission didn't land on the moon, because that was never the real destination. According to this hypothesis, Apollo 11 was used as a smokescreen for something much bigger: a deliberate misdirection of global attention. The question these theorists ask is simple: so where did they really go? That's where things get wild. Some claim the spacecraft was redirected to an unknown region of the Earth-Moon system, possibly the far side of the moon, which is never visible from Earth. Others go further, suggesting the mission headed to an artificial structure in lunar orbit, or even to a nearby planet, like Mars, or its moon Phobos. Sounds absurd? Not to those who dig into the technical details. One of the main arguments in this theory is hidden in the mission audio recordings. During the flight, there are moments of strange pauses, sudden audio cuts, and even synthetic interference that doesn't match NASA's usual communication profile. There are also mentions by astronauts of lights and structures that don't appear in the official footage. Many of these sections were later cut or revised in public records. Another suspicious element is the ongoing silence. No astronaut, not even those from later missions, has ever clearly described what the sky looked like from the moon. No vivid details about the stars. No direct talk about how the cosmos appeared from that surface, as if they were avoiding it, or as if they hadn't been there at all. For the more extreme theorists, the journey was actually part of a covert operation managed by shadow agencies, tied to military intelligence, with NASA as a front, and the mission goal, to explore, or make contact with, something that was already out there. Interestingly, recently declassified documents reveal that back in the 1960s, there was a real plan called Project Horizon, a U.S. military proposal to build a secret base on the moon. So was Apollo 11 really the first crewed mission to the moon, or was it just the first mission the public was allowed to see? So, did we really go to the moon, or did we just believe it because that's what they wanted? If that question stuck in your mind, subscribe. There are plenty more strange stories to tell.